Hey everyone, welcome back to the Lynx Golf Podcast. I'm Al Lunsford, digital editor for Lynx. We've got a great episode for you today. A duo of architects, Brian Ross, Jeff Stein, who worked together at Jekyll Island, building a new 18-hole course. Great dunes there. It's taking 9 holes, the 9-hole Walter Travis course, and 9 holes from an existing course, the Oleander course there, making it into a new Travis-inspired 18-hole course. It opens this fall around the late October, early November window in the Golden Isles in Georgia. So look out for that. It's a nice public exposure of Walter Travis that anyone can go and play and see. And so that it sounds like a big splash project. We're really excited about it. And Jeff and Brian joined us to talk about that, how they got involved, what they did in their research, going to different Travis properties around the country and using some of that. It crept into the design and influenced some of the holes there. They also talked about, Walter Travis's unique design style, what else they've got working on. And it's a really fun conversation. But before we get into that, we wanted to give a word from our sponsors, Perry Golf, who have been generous enough to sponsor this season. They're great partners of ours. We do a trip overseas with them every year. This year it was to Ireland. Next year, Scotland and England, playing 6 rounds, 5 of them on Open Championship host courses. So a really great trip. But for over 40 years, Perry Golf has been bringing golfers to the world's most legendary courses as a gateway to the Open Championship and access to guaranteed tee times on the old course, among other courses. They open doors others simply can't. From intimate small group adventures to luxury golf cruises and completely customized tours for your own group, they craft experiences across 40 countries and 6 continents. Their experts handle every detail from renowned golf courses to authentic cultural immersion and world-class accommodations along the way. Whether it's Scotland and Ireland's storied links, the dramatic cliff tops of Cape Kidnappers in New Zealand, or destinations yet to be discovered, Perry Golf turns your golf dreams into reality. So visit perrygolf.com, Perry golf.com, and play the game, see the world. Now enjoy a great conversation with myself, Joe Passoff, Brian Ross, and Jeff Stein. Welcome back to the Lynx Golf Podcast. I'm Al Lunsford, digital editor for Lynx, joined by my co-host, Joe Passoff. Today we've got another twosome joining us, so the full 4 heading out for your listening and viewing pleasure. We are joined by the duo of Jeff Stein, Brian Ross, who together are restoring, renovating, building new. They're doing all those things kind of at once at Great Dunes is the course at Jekyll Island. So taking a Walter Travis, 9 holes, building a Walter Travis-inspired new 9 from an existing course. Can you call it new, or is it sort of like an amalgamation of all these things that you guys are doing? I know boots in the ground, it's probably a bunch of different things going on at once, but we're excited to talk to you about the project, about Travis today. Thanks for joining us. I'll start with Jeff here. Can you explain what exactly is happening at Jekyll Island?
For sure. Well, thanks for having us, Al and Joe. It's a pleasure to be here talking with you about the Great Dunes. And yeah, what's really happening out there, amalgamation is a great word. It's a lot of syllables, might be a little confusing, but the whole spirit of the project is number one, restoring what we have of the original footprint of the Walter Travis course on Great Dunes, which has been there since the 20s. And then adjacent to that, we had 9 holes that we're able to utilize from Dick Wilson's course that was built in the late 50s, the Oleander. So there's 9 holes that are just, back to back, pretty much occupying the same ground. Although the Wilson course travels more through some maritime forest and coastal lakes, and is we've integrated those 2 9s in a way that makes for this great journey where you start in the forest, you come right out to the dunes, you play out in the sand for 9, 10 holes, and then you kind of work your way back through some different areas of lakes and back to the forest. So, yeah, like I said, restoring the look and the feel of Travis's original Great Dunes golf course, and we did some things to link the two pieces together to make it feel like one cohesive golf course, particularly by highlighting and utilizing Travis's penchant for interesting green surfaces and strategic golf through the use of chocolate drops, the placement of hazards in the fairway, and stuff that's going to kind of get in your way, but not be too difficult to navigate.
A lot of buzzwords, a lot of catnip for golf course architecture aficionados. We want to get into more about who Travis was and what kind of style he had. Brian, though, how did this project kind of introduce itself to you and to Jeff? And if someone has never been to Jekyll Island, how would you describe the place?
Yeah, so I was part of a team in 2017 that pursued a master plan. It was an island-wide golf master plan. The Jekyll had at the time 63 golf holes. So they had 3 18-hole courses and then the 9-hole Great Dunes course. And they had done a study with the National Golf Foundation, and it basically determined that they felt like they had too much golf there. They can struggle at times with having enough employees, finding enough labor to kind of maintain that much golf. And so they were looking for ways to maybe downsize, but then also improve their golf. So they renovated the Pine Lakes course with Clyde Johnston in 2024, and that reopened last fall. And then they put out a request for qualifications in summer of 2023. And at the time, Jeff and I were working together at Brookside Country Club in Macungie, Pennsylvania, outside Allentown. And I had been to Jekyll as part of that original proposal team. And so, I knew it was sand. I knew there was a lot of potential there. It was a very rough golf course at the time. I wouldn't say they had let it go, but they had definitely had kind of reduced the amount of maintenance they were putting into the Great Dunes course at the time. It had its own little pro shop area, its own cart fleet. It was kind of separate from the other 3 golf courses. And so they wanted to, they were basically looking for a way to kind of bring that golf course into the core of the property and create a new golf course that restored that course and featured it. And so Jeff and I were like, we felt like we were probably long shot candidates for the project, but we're like, hey, let's go after this and see what happens. And, we got an interview and beat out some pretty good names for that project. And we're very fortunate. The JIA, the Jackal Island Authority, they've been such a great client for us. Have really bought into the vision for what Travis was. And we had a lot of great ground level and aerial imagery of the golf course, thanks to the archives that they keep there on the island. So we knew what the Travis course had been. And so we could kind of take that information and bring it into the restoration of the 9, but then also carry some of those elements over into the new 9 as well.
Joe, I've not been to Jekyll Island before. I don't know if you have, but it is exciting to, a lot of Walter Travis stuff is not really accessible to the public, and this is going to be something that a lot of people may get their first taste of it. But have you been to Jekyll Island before?
No, I want to add that it's going to be fun to learn a little bit about Travis and his architecture today. But I think, Brian, you and Jeffrey actually hit on something about how low profile and even neglected to an extent that the golf at Jekyll Island has been. Because, as you all know, I've traveled reasonably well in my lifetime and never been to Jekyll. Multiple trips to Sea Island and other golf courses in the area. And even as such a history buff that I am, knowing there was some Travis there, and Dick Wilson was a pretty fine mid-century architect in his own right, and yet it just wasn't enough to pull me there. And so even in the back of my mind, I knew there had to be untapped potential with what was there, and was just a function of money as usual, but also maybe just a publicity effort on getting the word out that we have something special. But if it wasn't all that special, maybe you weren't bragging about it. Sea Island did a very similar thing in taking 9 seaside holes, the Colt Allison work, or Allison, shall we say, and then combining them with a 9-hole, more modern golf course and having to integrate the two. So what kind of challenges did you two face in trying to cope with, we need to make some kind of cohesive golf course? How do we do it, and how did you do it?
That's a great question. The first thing that we tackled was the clearing of vegetation and creating views from the Wilson 9 back towards the Great Dunes and vice versa. So there was a really a key link after the third green of our golf course, which is the first 3 holes are a part of the oleander. Clearing that, just pretty much a line of trees that separated the 2 golf courses. All of a sudden, it just opened up views to the Great Dunes pretty much from the 3rd tee. And that was really the key link. And really also serendipitous that you could walk from the 3rd green of our golf course to the 4th tee, formerly the 5th tee of the Great Dunes. They're not separated by more than 75 yards.
Okay.
So the golf course does crisscross and loop back on itself a little bit, but in a way that we're able to really make it a true walking golf course. There's no great lengths between green to tee. Only in a few places. It really truly exemplifies links, true links walking golf.
Yeah, and that was one of the things we tried to do as well, because the Wilson course was obviously built at a much different time. It was a cart golf course. There was some much bigger separation between greens and tees on that golf course, and full cart path, asphalt cart path throughout. And so, we took out all the asphalt and concrete off the property and created more natural cart path, but then we moved greens and tees on the Wilson course to be closer together to kind of have that same cohesive feel that the Great Dunes course already had. And like Jeff said, I mean, it really was mostly just about the clearing, but then again, it was taking elements that we had from photographs on the island of Travis's work, but then also from the site visits that we made to lots of other Travis golf courses, where we were kind of trying to identify themes and things that we could take that we saw, over and over again, like, he obviously did this. He did this here, here, and here. And we try to take those elements and blend them into our 9 new greens.
Okay. Al, I know as you and I try to collaborate, my next question is for Brian, Jeffrey. You're 2 different firms, yet you worked together in the past. How does a collaboration work when, you've got pretty strong thoughts in your own heads? Take us through the process of, you both were there at the same time, you put in a bid, and then how do you weigh the different possibilities back and forth?
Well, sure. So Jeff and I were, obviously we've been friends for a while. We've worked together on other things in the past. So we knew we'd get along well. We kind of have some similar thoughts on design. We work in a similar fashion in terms of how we operate in the field. And so one of the things I think that showed us early on that it was going to work is that, we had to come up with a new 18-hole routing that left the existing clubhouse and goes out into the Great Dunes and comes back. And so we decided to basically attack that separately and then, compare notes, essentially see who came up with what. And we actually came up with the exact same routing for the golf course. And so it was like, okay, obviously we're kind of on the same page there. When it comes to the construction of things, the location of greens and the shapes and sizes and slopes and bunkers and things like that, obviously, each one of us, I think, and not just including Jeff and I, but also our entire shaping team, we allow a lot of flexibility. Show us what you think makes sense here, and then we'll edit it. If he or I are building a green, we're bouncing ideas off of each other back and forth, and until we come up with something that we both love. And so, there's a little bit of give and take, obviously, as in anything. But I think that, we both trust each other, that we've seen enough and done enough great work that we can that we could pull it off together there.
Yeah, and I'll add too, like, Brian and I have been, extremely collaborative, and there's definitely that free form artistic flow of the work when you're in the field. But Brian and I each, print out, a whole 18 hole plan book each, and marking our own notes, comparing notes, sharing notes, understanding what the limitations of the property are. In particular, the Oleander course was very flat, very little positive drainage on the ground. So a lot of the decisions that were design decisions we're making are driven by like the utility of draining the golf course, a huge aspect of the project for us. And that also drives the creativity and the design decisions that we go from there. So we kind of like building on this framework and understanding the whole scope of the project, what to do with all the clearing material, like how to get rid of that, and it just drives other creative decisions. So Brian's just got a ton of great experience working on bigger projects. I've been involved in a lot of big projects like this, but it's been a lot of fun working together, and I think the product shows.
Al, I'm going to ask one more, and then I'll let you take a ride from there.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, all you.
So with the land that Great Dunes occupies, even from the 1980s when I started reading and learning and eventually traveling and so forth, the recommendations for that golf course they were so lukewarm. There was a Travis name associated with it, but I couldn't even get a sense that there were great bones to the golf course, only a great setting. When you set foot on the property and started to examine it, what did you find? And how did it convince you, let's do Travis here? Let's put Travis back, as opposed to, we have this amazing piece of property, let's just put our own stamp on it.
Yeah, Brian, why don't you cover that one? Because since you were the first one to see the property.
Sure. Well, essentially it wasn't up to us. The Jekyll Island Authority had already determined, like, hey, we want to restore the Travis course. That was very important to them. There had been some changes made to the golf course by a former pro out there. Had moved a tee and built a new green on the Great Dunes course. The leadership there, Noel Jensen's the deputy executive director, and Aaron Saunders, the superintendent, they both came on board in the mid 2010s and really started to kind of drive this kind of restoration of the golf on Jekyll Island, not just the Great Dunes course, but especially the Great Dunes course. They know that that's kind of the centerpiece of the property. You get the entire Jekyll Island experience on the Great Dunes. You've got the history, you've got the sand, you've got the forest and the lakes, the wildlife. And so they felt that was very important. So that was part of the brief, was to, we're going to restore the Travis. And so when I first visited the property, I mean, all I saw was potential. You could see that there were sand dunes out there. They were just completely buried in trees and shrubs and vines. So much growth that had just kind of taken over and hid the dunes. You couldn't see a single splash of sand out there that wasn't in a bunker, but you knew it was there. And then, of course, digging a little deeper into the archives and things, that we started to see some of the photos, including the lost 9 holes of Walter Travis, which was very important to the project as well. So there used to be, it was an 18-hole course for, I guess, about 25 years until the state took over, and there was a storm in the 1950s and the early 1950s that basically wiped out what was the back 9 of that golf course. And they made the decision at that time not to rebuild it, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's the way history goes. But we did have some great photographs of that property. So we knew kind of what Travis had built out there. We knew the potential that was on that site because of that. And so then there's 2 primary features, I think, that we found in those photographs. The first being what we call the May West green, which is our 4th green now. It's a short par 5 with a green that's built up on top of a dune with 2 much larger dunes protecting it, both the front left and front right. Again, that feature was still there. Not much had been changed except for a little bit of of work on the green, but the green setting was still there. It was it was just hidden in this mess of vegetation. And so we knew that, this isn't going to take much more than just clearing and opening this thing back up. And then the second thing was there was a historic walking bridge that at the time went from the second green up, and the third tee played kind of over top of the second green. And so those two elements, we knew were there and had been eliminated or just been lost to time. And so we felt like if we can bring those things back, like this, we can start making this thing a special place again, a place where, people are going to want to come and play golf. It's such a unique setting for a golf course, especially on the East Coast, to have the sandy topography that we have.
Yeah, there's an inherent charm to little things like that. Like, there's some pictures of that 2-board walking plank that you're talking about. I mean, just like little things that are additive to the entire experience of playing a round of golf, from a visual or just, that those are things that people are going to talk about when they leave. It's like, oh, it's just so cool to like walk along the plank in the dune. I feel like I have a little cheat sheet, Joe, because I've actually talked to both of these guys already for this project. We're writing a little first peek in the fall print issue of Links. I want to do a little housekeeping. You may have mentioned this, but you've got the 9 Travis. You're taking 9 from the Oleander. That leaves 9 from the Oleander. Where does that go? What happens to that?
Well, the JIA, the Jekyll Island Authority, is undergoing is going to take those 100+ acres and return it to a wetland conservancy. So there's a big project to restore native plants in the old golf course, mostly wetland plants, because that part of the property was perpetually underwater, really, with the pretty subtropical climate that they have there. Frequent rainfall. The golf course really was closed even to carts like 200 days a year. So that's a big component of what's driving this portion of the project for us, restoring the golf course on the Great Dunes, and that'll open up some of the land bank for the JA to develop other parts of the island. New clubhouse for the Great Dunes, possibly some more accommodations, more like a stay and play kind of thing. But the conservation department will be returning that all to native vegetation.
I was explaining that to a couple of friends of mine who are not like the biggest golf people. They were just like, oh, what are you working on? What's going on? And started talking about this project. And that was one of the things that they were like, oh, I love that they're doing that, like conserving the land that was a golf course. So I want to go back also to talking about, your research, and you went to other places to look at what Travis likes to do, his style. Specifically, where did you go? What did you look at? What made a real impact on you? Because I know there's a couple of things on the course that are going to be really exciting to see.
Yeah, I mean, look, we went to all the highlights of Travis's repertoire. Cape Arundel. We visited North Jersey. We visited Country Club of Troy. Hollywood Golf Club. Some of this work has been restored by others recently, but we tried to go to some of his other work that maybe was also a little bit more untouched and hasn't been restored. Places like Troy, Cape Arundel's been touched up a little bit, but very much preserved. I took a trip out to Grand Mare up in Quebec, which is a mix of work between Travis and Allison. So that was, and of course, Garden City Golf Club is close to me here in where I live in Brooklyn, and I've done some work on restorative work on the course as well. In 2012, we did the restoration of the 12th green there with the big mounds left and right, totally encapsulated in putting surface, and the Garden City has definitely made a big impact on both Brian and I, for sure.
Yeah, and I'll add that one of the things, I think the most important things that we did in the pre-planning for this project was to take Noel Jensen on one of those visits with us. And I told him early on, I was like, you have to come on this trip with us, because if we just go out there and start building what we think are Travis greens, you're probably going to run us off the island. Like they're a little wild there. They can be, they can be a little wild for maybe the public golfer. And so we took him on that first trip that we did to Hollywood, North Jersey, and Troy. And you could see the light bulb go off in his head. I think on the first visit at Hollywood, I think you could kind of see him say, "Oh wow, this is some really interesting golf." And then again, kind of seeing that again at North Jersey and saying, "Okay, obviously it wasn't just a one-off thing." And then going to Troy and seeing a golf course that really hasn't been changed at all since Travis was there, and then he was starting to click for him. And so that trip wasn't just important for us, but it was important for us to sell that vision for what we were going to build to the authority and to the board on the island.
Yeah, if you're listening or watching and you haven't seen that 12th green at Garden City that Jeff was describing, there's a lot going on. There's inverted bunkers, the mounding, internal mounding on the green as well. It's really fascinating. I think you said you were able to do, not a replica, but incorporate some of those elements onto a par 3 on the new Great Dunes course.
Absolutely.
As well.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely have, I couldn't resist the inspiration, the chance to build something similar to that. And we'll leave it to opening day. But it'll be a nice, should be a nice reference to go back to, for sure.
Joe, when you think about Walter Travis, what do you think? Like, what comes to mind?
The old man. He was very late to golf and was a phenomenal player. I mean, one of the best amateurs of the early 20th century, winner of the amateur championship across the pond, and then multiple triumphs here. But the first thing I think about is, like, nobody had really heard about Walter Travis in like 55 years or so. And media is interviewing Ben Crenshaw about a spectacular putting round, as Ben usually had. And Ben says, "Yeah, I putted like Walter J. Travis today." Okay. And all the reporters went to their encyclopedias and said, "Who is this Walter J. Travis guy?" So apparently Travis was a pretty good putter. It led to some of his successes, which then kind of translated into doing some putting greens that reflected emphasis on putting. Brian, when you and Jeffrey, you and Brian went back and looked at Travis design greens, obviously you were impressed. You mentioned some of the wild contours. Is there a way you have of putting it, those greens, what's left of them, in context, say, as compared to what Mackenzie did, or Donald Ross did, or British version, who was a good putter, Willie Park Jr., that sort of thing? Where do you put Travis's greens that you've seen in context, and why was it important to you to bring back Travis into the conversation?
Well, the context is that Travis was one of the best green builders of all time, very much in the conversation with any of those guys, Ross, Mackenzie, Tillinghast, even Rayner and McDonald, for that matter. They just all had their own little different take on things. If you visit enough Travis golf courses, particularly the ones that have not been restored, I think you will notice some themes in the way that Travis segments the certain putting areas or pin locations, or the way that he deals with draining water off of the green surfaces, and he just has a unique way of doing it. And I believe that he does have his own sort of template green that he will kind of rotate around and kind of insert throughout the round. Country Club of Troy is a perfect example of that, where you see these diagonal swales which move in different directions on several different greens throughout the round. And you might even notice a reference to like a maiden green, where you have like two shoulders and a swale through the middle. Not quite a double plateau, but his own take on it. And he'll rotate where those shelves are, and particularly at Troy. That was really eye-opening.
Yeah, a few years ago, there was a conversation on Golf Club Atlas, and I don't even know if I'd be able to find the post, but basically it was Tom Doak was talking about how he and Ben and Bill built greens differently, and Tom kind of hinted and noted that he tends to build more greens by cutting the natural landform, whereas Bill and Ben tend to build their greens more by fill on the natural topography. And I think Travis is one of those guys who kind of built by cut more so than fill. You know, he didn't have some of the really big, beefy shoulders like what you might see from Ross or Tillinghast. Not to say there was none of that, but I think typically like his greens are a little more on the ground, digging into the ground, moving water through the green instead of around it. So yeah, those are some of the things that I kind of noted that separated him, and then just I think the amount and almost randomness of the internal movement versus the other guys, you know, not just having the shoulders on, you know, the four corners or on the middle left and middle right. Like sometimes the swale or the low part of the green would be at the very back. And, you know, a lot of greens that have multiple exit points for water, that's something that I hinted on as well. And I think a lot of our greens at Great Dunes, you know, especially the new ones kind of do that as well.
Al, I'm happy to keep moving.
Well, I know we've talked a lot about Great Dunes and Jekyll Island. I don't know if we specifically mentioned it's going to open this fall, looking around like a November open date, right? So
Right.
That will be what to look out for. So it's right around the corner. But what else? Are you guys working on anything together that's separate from this? Individual projects? What else do you have going on?
We've put out some RFPs recently. We're waiting to hear back down in Miami. Miami Shores is a project we applied for together, and Brian and I worked together also at the Seawain Club around New York, in Hewlett, New York, which is actually an Emmett course. So Travis and Emmett were obviously very closely related at one point, and Brian's helped me out there at Seawain, and we're talking about some other projects here in the Northeast, getting involved together. Essex Fells Country Club in Essex Fells, New Jersey. So a lot of stuff. I've got some stuff going on around New York area, but Brian, you can talk too about Little Mammoth and stuff we've done together over there. That's coming up.
Yeah, so Jeff helped me out last summer at Park Mammoth. We built a new 9-hole short course there to complement the 18-hole course that I'd done in the 2020, 2021. And so again, that was another one of those things leading into this project where, you know, it just felt like we were kind of clicking, kind of on the same page with what we were looking for out there. And so, you know, I've worked for Jeff and with Jeff, he's worked for me and with me. We've had multiple ways of approaching projects. And then this was kind of the first one together where I guess you could say we kind of co-led the project throughout the entirety of it. And yeah, we are pursuing some other things right now, some more municipal work. I don't even know if we even noted that as part of this project, but, you know, Jekyll Island, the entire island is owned by the state of Georgia. So, you know, this is a municipal golf course that would be public, open to everyone. Not too many great examples out there of Travis's work that are easily accessible. And so this is going to be one of those. It's certainly going to be, I think, the most impressive and restored version of his work that's open to the public. And we're pursuing some new coursework as well. We got a couple things actually maybe in Kentucky and something in Texas that we're going after together as well. So yeah, just trying to build off of this. And then of course we both have our own, you know, little consulting things. Jeff's mentioned, his ongoing work at Seawain and some other places. I've got a couple of clients in the Cincinnati area that I'm working on some long range planning and some small projects with, and just trying to kind of keep the ball rolling and looking for our next big adventure.
So my question, again, clear some cobwebs. One of the little unspoken aspects of not an elephant in the room, but the fact that you are making classic or golden age design available for players who are not on gigantic expense accounts or trust fund travelers, which you seem to see all over Twitter. Everybody posting their W's and their logos and everything.
Mhm.
Brian, obviously, you scored a great success with Park Mammoth, high rankings, lots of positive press, and play in Kentucky, and places like Winter Park and Sweetens Cove that demonstrated you can illuminate some great architecture without having necessarily to charge a lot of money for it.
Mhm.
How does that enter into what you were able to do for the state of Georgia with Great Dunes, and not dumbing down a golf course just because you're not going to pay a lot of money for it?
Yeah, Joe, I've heard that so many times in my career. It makes me cringe. Literally, you hear, "Oh, well, that's too much for the public golfer. Or we can't build that here. That's not maintainable." Well, none of those things are true. Every golfer should be able to experience the great aspects of golf, and not everyone's going to get to go to national golf links and get to go to Chicago Golf Club, and not everyone's going to get to see Hollywood or North Jersey, but we can take those elements into the public. Another great example that's in the Southeast was Charleston Municipal. It's not a Seth Rayner golf course, but it was inspired by his work at Country Club of Charleston and Yeamans Hall and other places like that. And so that golf course, again, wildly successful. I mean, the template is there. It's just that you have to be willing to, and have a client that's willing to kind of take that chance and say, you know what, we can push the boundaries a little bit on what we can maintain and what we can do and still have the price point that any golfer can afford.
Good to hear, because I wish we saw more of that. Charleston Municipal is a great example of that. And why not? Just because it's less than $100 to play, or the 67 after twilight, whatever the number might be.
You can't even get on there. You can't even get on the golf course.
Yeah, it's like a jailbreak. I mean, a total lottery now to try to get on. But
well, and I think it's also worth mentioning too. We're here talking about the Great Dunes, but there's also some really good initiatives out there. People have supported us. The National Links Trust. Mm-hmm. They're doing really good public work in the DC area at Rock Creek, and hopefully they get to East Potomac Links, which is a Travis, and so I'm throwing our hat in the ring for that as well. If those boys will have us come take a look at it. And then, of course, Cobb's Creek, too, is another high-profile municipal project going on right now, and there's really a lot of goodwill in the municipal space across the United States for public golf. So we just want to, spread the word of that and participate in this great movement of golf that's happening in the public space.
Yeah, thank you. The Munisance, it's a wonderful thing. I have two questions left, Joe. Do you have any more?
I have one.
Okay. All right. Get yours out of the way then.
I will. Jeffrey, you have had the good fortune to work on so many wonderful classic golf courses that have been restored, top 100s in their own right. Again, a phenomenal array, both of classic and then some modern stuff, including Bandon Preserve. So how do you take from all of those and develop something in your own head that is your own style, that it belongs to Jeffrey Stein? Because Tillinghast did have his own aspects that were different from Ross, that were different from McRainer and so forth. How do you think about that for Jeffrey Stein?
It's a great question. I've been, like you said, I've been so fortunate to be on some great properties and participate alongside some of the preeminent architects in the game today. You mentioned the Preserve, working alongside Bill and Ben there. Dave Zinkind, even a contemporary, a few years older than us. I learned a lot from him on that project, working with Gil Hance at a Hoopie Match Club, and which is more modern. But Baltusrol I really learned a lot of Gil's approach to classic restoration and just the hands-on work that he puts into everything. And for myself, I really I believe that putting yourself into the work is important. That's certainly part of my style, and I guess it's still developing. I'm going to need more canvases to get my style out there, and I'm hoping we have those opportunities. But I really want to, when I get the chance to respond to the piece of property that you have, and try and get the golf course to rest lightly on the land. I know a lot of people talk about that, but that truly is the way I see golf, the way I've experienced it on my trips to overseas to Scotland and the roots of the game, and some of the best golf courses. You feel like you're going through and kind of on a walk, and you're almost noticing more your surroundings than necessarily like the features of the golf course. The two are blending together, and that's very much the style that I would like to incorporate through in my career going forward, and I hope we get great opportunities and properties to do that.
Speaking of which, this leads into one of my final two questions. Can we talk about the Hollywood Tunnel?
Well,
Sure.
we have a little something going on at the Great Dunes, but it's again inspired by what they've got going on over there. And Jekyll Island is seaside, and we're here very close to Brunswick, the port in Brunswick, and we use the sea crate to make our portal where it makes sense, and kind of transport golfers from one side of the golf course to the other. So that's another little surprise out there for some people.
Yeah, legend has it that there's a Model T buried out there somewhere on the Great Dunes. We didn't find it, but supposedly it's out there somewhere. So we're kind of adding our own little buried element out there as well.
Very cool. Yeah, for listeners, go look up Hollywood Golf Club and the tunnel and the golf course there to get an idea of what we're talking about. There's good pictures on the web of that too. Final question for me: where can people find you guys, your stuff, keep up with you, and stay up to date?
Sure. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
You go ahead.
Instagram, Stein Golf Design. Have a website, steingolf.com. Pretty much stick to those two channels right now, but hope to be on with you guys some more and have people find us through Links Magazine.
Yeah, kind of same for me. Website at rossgolfarchitects.com. Ross Golf Design is taken. Nobody's using it, but it's taken, I suppose. So rossgolfarchitects.com. I'm Brian Ross Golf. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. Try to use those. Try to kind of keep people updated on what's going on. I'm not the greatest social media guy out there, but I do enjoy getting to post on there and tell people what we're up to.
Well, it's clear you guys are good friends, and we're excited to see this collaboration, this chemistry between you two on the ground at Great Dunes, Jekyll Island, and the Golden Isles in Georgia. Really looking forward to it. Thanks for your time today and talking about everything. Hope we can connect again as you keep going and building. And we really appreciate it. Joe, anything else from your end?
No, it's great to spend some time with you guys, get to know two great architects. I'm not going to say young because none of us are young per se, but you guys are a rising star right now, and it's always fun to get some perspective. So congratulations, continued success.
Thank you so much. Thanks for saying that, and we expect to see you guys at Jekyll Island with your sticks.
That's right. We're hoping to, I think we're shooting for kind of a late October kind of grand opening, if you will, or private opening, media day. And then I believe the first golf that will be played on the Great Dunes by the public is going to be the Polk Cup, which is an event that they host at Jekyll every year. I think that's October 29th through 31st. And then public tee times, hopefully beginning right after that.
I'm bringing my metal detector to look for that Model T.
It's out there, Joe.
That's unbelievable. Yeah, can't wait. Invitation accepted. Thanks again, and we'll talk again soon, I'm sure.
Thank you both.
Thank you all.